Awesome. Well, welcome to our podcast on A/B testing for e-commerce websites. My name is Andrew, the Digital Marketing Director at the Commerce Shop. I'm excited to be joined here by my colleague Karthik, who's a solution architect and a CRO expert who I work with closely at the Commerce Shop. In this podcast, we'll be sharing our knowledge and expertise on how to conduct effective A/B tests to optimize your e-commerce websites and increase overall conversions. So whether you're a seasoned e-commerce professional or just starting out, be sure to tune in and learn from our experience. Hi, Karthik. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Andrew, for having me today on your podcast. So again, I'm Karthik, as Andrew pointed out. I'm a senior solution architect and also lead the conversion team here at the Commerce Shop. And we are here to share our experience on the e-commerce conversion aspects with our customers. And very specifically, we are excited to discuss A/B testing and how it can benefit e-commerce business.
Awesome. Great. So let's start with the basics. Can you explain what A/B testing is?
Absolutely. A/B testing is the process of comparing two versions of web pages or apps or any designs to see which one performs better compared to the other one. So this is technically done by random splitting of your website's traffic between two versions and comparing the results between the audiences. You can split the audiences and compare the results between two variations of your pages across two different audiences. And A/B testing allows you to make more data-driven decisions about your website design, content, placement of call to action buttons. There are lots of benefits that we can discuss about what A/B testing can do and how we can improve your conversions.
Awesome. So you mind explaining why A/B testing is so important for e-commerce businesses?
Absolutely. See, e-commerce business heavily rely upon their websites to generate sales, right? Apart from all the other websites, the sales aspect of an e-commerce website is very critical. So optimizing your website's performance to increase your conversion and revenue is very crucial when it comes to e-commerce websites. So you'd be running paid ads, or you'd be spending doing lots of investments on the marketings and driving in the right traffic. But if you're not having an effective website that is converting, then you will be losing your money on the marketing spends that you have done. So that's where A/B testing is very critical, and A/B testing helps identify the most effective changes for your website and keeping you ahead of the competitions and providing you the best possible experience for your customers.
Yeah, absolutely. We use a similar thing in paid media as well when we're kind of trying to compare and contrast some content. I think you could provide a step-by-step guide for conducting an effective A/B test for an e-commerce website itself.
Sure, I will do that. So we'll start from the basics, right? So first you have to define your goal for A/B testing, right? So what you wanted to achieve with that A/B testing. So whether it's going to be like micro conversions or macro conversions, what you want your customers to do on that particular changes that you're making to do, okay? And you have to define your end goals and formulate your hypothesis, and then create the variations. So it might be a single variant or a multiple variants that you're making on the web page. So identify and create the different variations that you're going to do on the web page. And then the most important thing is splitting your traffic, right? You have to split your traffic accordingly, which variations that you're going to test with which demographics and which variations you're going to test with the different demographics. So you have to know the data before in hand you're splitting the traffic, and then start running your test. So you have to test this at least for a week or a 2 weeks time frame to give the data to accumulate more data and get more quantified information, analyze your test results, and then make a decision. Again, this is not one A/B testing might not be good enough for few scenarios. You have to continuously iterate and repeat this process until you meet the goal that you have defined earlier.
Yeah, that makes sense. Different content can speak to different demographics, and doing a bunch of testing so we have actionable data for our tests is important. So what are some common A/B test variations for an e-commerce landing page?
Yeah, see, the idea of this podcast is to explain, basically what things or different variations we can do A/B testing across different scenarios of an e-commerce website. So that's a great question, Andrew. Because uh, people, when it comes to e-commerce website, the people will be driving most of their traffics to their landing pages, whether they are running any promotional offers or it might be their product pages. So the landing pages is where they'll be running most of their PPC campaigns. And here are a few examples that you can test it on a landing page. So you can test your headlines that you put on your landing page and the product images. The image variations are very critical. So whenever you put a landing page that are very crucial for your promotions, try to have like 2-3 different variations of your product images and do A/B testing across different groups. Okay. And the placement of call to action buttons, that is a very crucial part. In a landing page, you can not just have one call to action button, you can have like multiple call to action buttons in different places, but the placement of those call to action buttons can be tested through A/B testing. Okay. And if you're on your landing page, if you're explaining the customers what's a benefit or features that you offer on your product, the placement of those things also really very critical. If your brand is a very well-known brand, then it might not be that required. But if you're if your brand needs some kind of knowledge for the customers to more about your brand or benefits, so you have to have that placement very effectively. So you need to A/B test that placement on a landing page. Okay. And finally, like you have to test the placements of your testimonials, social proof. If you're putting a video like in an image, like if you're adding a video on your landing pages, that's very critical. So there are lots of ways to test a video. Even inside the video, you can do lots of A/B testing, like the duration of the video, the section or segments of the video. So you can do lots of testing, but we can talk about that in a later podcast. We can put a podcast separately for video A/B testing. But that's the placement and the time of the video. Everything has to be changed and tested. And finally, like the navigation part, whether you are going to take the customer from this landing page to a next call to action page, or you're finally allowing the customer directly to the cart or checkout. So those aspects also need to be tested through A/B testing in a landing page scenario.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a bunch of components to, what goes into a landing page, and, the images, the call to actions, the benefits and features. You don't really know what's going to speak best to your audience until you kind of do a little bit of testing. So that's where it goes in. So that's a great list, Karthik. So I guess once the business has run an A/B test, how do we know if these results are usable? Are they statistically significant, right?
That's a great question. So you have to look for statistically significant differences in metrics such as conversion rate, right? Bounce rate or time on site. So you have to measure those critical KPIs. So you have to have a KPI, like you have to test it for these two different variations. What is the goal that you wanted to achieve? Whether customers were able to where they where they achieved the goal. If your end goal on a landing page is to make the customer click call to action button, then you have to measure that, right? So you have to measure like how many people have clicked that call to action button. So in this case, the conversion rate is the number of people clicking the call to action button. Okay. And how many people are bouncing without even taking further action, like on the variations. So these are like major things that you need to look into, like conversion rate, bounce rate, the time they spend on a particular section or the entire page. Those things can be measured and compared with the different variations of the A/B testing, and you can make a more data-driven decision here. Okay. And there are also A/B testing software which will provide you with the confidence level indicating when you have enough data to make a decision. So that's the reason you have to have at least a certain amount of data to validate these results.
Yeah, absolutely. When we're talking about these qualitative variables, right, of how much does someone like a picture or how much does someone like a landing page, really tying it in with those quantitative metrics in terms of, actual numbers and how do we make sense of these metrics, right? So that's really informative. I guess, do you have any advice for businesses new to A/B testing who haven't done it before?
The general advice I always give to my team as well as with our clients is, start with small. If you're new to A/B testing, always start with small. Okay, create a more focused tests, and you have to be patient, right? So you cannot expect the result within like day 2 or day 3 from the moment you started A/B testing, because the more the data you collect, the more the quality of the results is going to be. Okay, so focus test, be patient. A/B testing is an ongoing process that you have to keep in mind. Okay, it's not a one done and go, right? So if your website is always going to be needs continuous improvement, because your customer, the demographics that you're bringing in, the scenarios that's around the public domains, everything will constantly be changing, right? So you have to do this A/B testing as an ongoing process and keep learn from your test, and over time you will see that there is the benefits in terms of increased conversion and revenue. So always have a goal and do things to achieve that goal, right? So I mean, you cannot achieve the goal on day one, but be consistent on what you're doing. Then definitely, A/B testing will be a very very good tool to get you the desired conversions that you wanted to have.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned quite a few factors that go into that we can A/B test, and trying to test all of them at once from the start, especially when you're kind of working with new to A/B testing. Like you said, it's smart to kind of start small and focus on a few different variables at first, and not there's so many changes going on. It's hard to keep track of everything. So yeah, I think that's great advice. So thanks, Karthik. Let's move on to discussing A/B testing on other pages of the e-commerce website. Can you share some common A/B test variations for home pages?
Sure, Andrew. So some of the examples that we generally do in our with our clients is like the hero page or the hero image or video. That because the home page is definitely going to have an hero image or a video image or video that's going to go on the top of the above the fold area. So as I said, for the landing page example, you have to have like different images variations, video variations for testing that part, because that is what is going to capture the eyes of a customer when they land onto your home page. So you should be having a very good consistent image that helps customers understand your product and take the next steps, right? And the next important thing is like the headlines, the subheadings you use on your websites on the home page, right? So you can test multiple different variations of headlines and subheadings, and also the call to action buttons again. These are critical, right? The call to action buttons, I'm going to repeat again and again in multiple places when we talk about A/B testing, because that's what you wanted your customers to do at the end of any e-commerce website or any page, right? So the placement of the call to action button, the colors of the call to action buttons, the sizes of the call to action buttons. So you need to test all these variations when it comes to a home page. Okay. And also the navigation, what you wanted the customer to do from the first home page, whether you wanted to directly take them to a product page, or you wanted to take them to a subcategory page, or you wanted to make the customer to take some other action depending upon the type of business or the product that you're selling. So you have to decide that, and you have to test it with different navigation variations. Okay. And so when it comes to like B2C customers, we always ask the customers to display their best selling product images on the home pages, those kind of things. So we have to, again, like the placement of those product images on the website, on the home page. So those things have to be tested. And other important thing when it comes to home pages, from the branding perspective, you need to have trust elements, like reviews or social mentionings of your websites in different renowned websites or magazines. So those trust elements have to be tested, the placement of those on the home page, and the variations can also be tested for the trust elements, because it should, that is where the customers are going to believe in your brand and take the next step for your product. Okay, so those are the things you can test for a homepage.
Absolutely. The homepage is so important to our marketing strategies, and, is usually the cornerstone of the website, right? There's the most traffic flows through the homepage. So really having the brand represented properly there in terms of the hero images, how we've set up the headlines and sub headlines, even call to action, right? Shop now versus learn more, right? All of these kind of things go together, and, certain reviews and all that will kind of have a different feel and kind of give people a different impression when they first come to your site. So, I think those are all really, really good points there, Karthik. What about the navigation pages? What are some A/B test variations we can do for those?
Yeah, again, great question. For navigation pages, consider testing these the aspects like, the structure, the menu structure is very critical, right? So you have to define the menu structure in such a way the product discovery is as simple as for the customer. And you might be having like, tons of categories on your website, categories and subcategories, but you need to make sure the customers with minimal, clicks, they will be able to, you can take them to the corresponding category or a product page as quickly as possible. Okay, so you have to define the menu structure in such a way. So you have to, test it with different variations of your menu structures, and labeling, like, which menu goes first and which menu goes second, and what are the labels goes into that menus. So those things you can test it with different variations. Again, positioning of the menus and the number of items that you put onto a menu, right? So that is very critical. See, in modern websites are no more using the drop down, like architecture menu. Most of the websites are these days using mega menu structures, where they divide, menus into rows and columns. So the number of items you put into those menu structure, that really matters. So try to test that with different variations. And the placement of search bar is very critical. We always recommend using a predictive search for on your website, and make sure the search bar is positioned in proper places. It's easy to navigate, and it's always, from the text perspective, it's open and easy for the customer to type in something quickly on the search bar. And also try to keep a sticky navigation, like, make your menu bar always, sticky and available to the customers wherever, they are scrolling the website. So the changes I'm talking about in this entire podcast is both for mobile and desktop. So you have to do this variations separately for mobile devices and separately for desktop variations, because, the different audiences are going to come in differently, on the type of devices. So make sure you have like different, test scenarios and variations for mobile and different test variations for desktop.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, navigation, navigating from any page on the site is really important, and it's really critical to making sure we limit the friction process from when they get there to hopefully once they convert. So, I think that's a really crucial aspect to, A/B testing and CRO. Do you have any A/B test variations for, the product collection pages once we've navigated from the homepage to the product they're looking at? How do we, kind of A/B test that?
Again, like, the product collection is another critical element if you're having more products on your website, because you have to have a proper product collections with effective filters, so that customers can quickly find the product what they are searching for. So you can test, from A/B testing perspective, you can test the layout has to be tested definitely, like where you want to put the filters, or whether on the left side or on the top menu. So you have, or like how many products that you're planning to list in a row, like 3 products, 2 products, or 4 products, depending upon the size of the images that you have, the title, the description that goes into it. So you have to test the entire layout variations, like with 3 products in a row, like 2 products in a row, 4 products in a row. And then of course the images, right? So the image sizes, the placement, all those things really matter. So where you want to put the add to cart button on the product collection pages, where it's on the top of the image or bottom of the image. So those things can be, we can do some variation testings there. And of course the titles, descriptions. sorting options, not just a filter, sorting options also needs to be, kind of tested. For example, in one of our scenarios, um, the customers were always, we had the default sorting option of like, price low to high. Okay. But we later with the A/B testing, we found that when we changed the sorting option from new to, old, their conversions improved, right? So we felt that when some people with the products with less price are going to sell more, but that's not the scenario. So it completely depends upon the demographics and the product that you sell. So try to change the sorting options and test it. And again, the call to action buttons, like I talked about, the add to cart. If you are collecting reviews, you have to display the star ratings on the product collection pages, and the placement of those star ratings also needs to be tested. And these days, if you could see, people are avoiding pagination as much as possible, and they are adding like infinite scroll, or we call that as lazy loading on the product collection pages. That also needs to be tested. I mean, infinite scroll may not be working for all the websites, so we have to test it with different variations.
Yeah, awesome. I think that you touched base on a lot of key aspects to how we should set up our product collection pages. The sorting aspect is a great point. Not everyone's looking for the lowest cost item, especially on our premium product brands, right? So, obviously, we hopefully give them a couple different options so they can sort how they want, but getting them to that first sorting option can be crucial in terms of how they navigate the site. So. Yeah, I guess next kind of point is going to talk about the detail page for the products after we kind of filter through the collection page. Do you have any suggestions on A/B test variations for those pages?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. See, the end goal is to get the customer to a product page and add it to the cart. That's going to be the end goal for any e-commerce website. So the product page plays a very crucial role on conversions. So there are lots of A/B test variations you can do on the product pages. So, I mean, again, start with the layout, right? So where to place the images, like if you have multiple images for the products, how we are planning to show the multiple images with carousels, or like, those kind of things, the placement of those carousels and the image size, whether you wanted to put a zoom button, or like a zoom option for the images. And the placement of the call to action buttons have to be tested, because when it comes to product page, the above the fold area is very crucial, right? When like on the top section of the page where we are putting the product images, the call to action buttons. So try to give as much information as possible on the above the fold area, but give more relevant information so that customers can make a decision there. So the product title is very crucial. The product description is very crucial. So we have to test different variations of product title, product descriptions, the call to action buttons. The placement of reviews and ratings is very critical. Again, and a scenario is like, in most of the e-commerce websites, we see that the ratings and reviews will be at the bottom of the page, and there will be a link to the top. When people click, it takes them to the ratings and reviews page. That's good. That's what most of the e-commerce websites do. But for one of our customers, when we moved the reviews and ratings below the product call to action button with an expand collapse button, we felt the customers are reading it more of. I mean, the customers are reading it more often, and the conversions got improved. So again, like, you have to test those scenarios. And of course, if you're having videos that explain your products, the placement of the videos, the timing of the videos are very critical. So you have to test it with multiple variations there. And social proofing, sharing, or creating your Instagram feed, everything is very critical. So try to test with all those variations on the product detail page.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for sharing these variations, Karthik. It's a lot of valuable information for e-commerce businesses looking to optimize their website through A/B testing. Yeah, thanks.
You're welcome, Andrew. So I hope these, ideas, are very, very useful and inspire e-commerce businesses to test and optimize their websites. to provide the best solution to their end customers and give them the better experience. And hopefully, with our experience that we shared here, you are able to make a very good A/B testing and increase your conversions.
Absolutely. Thanks again, Karthik, for being here and for sharing your expertise with us today. And to our listeners, thanks for joining in. We hope this information helps you make the most of A/B testing on your e-commerce website. Until next time.